has finally materialized.
All right. Rhonda, is it good to start now? All right. Hello, everyone, and good evening. My name is Sai. I'm a research assistant at Seneca Polytechnic. And tonight we're here for a controlled environment agriculture webinar. And it was born out of the Toronto Urban Farmer Training, which is a collaborative project between Seneca, Toronto Urban Growers, Greenest City, which is now a program of the West Neighbourhood House, and Toronto Metropolitan University. So the Toronto Urban Farmer Training aims to support urban farmers and urban farming enterprises by providing training opportunities in business and farming skills that are relevant to an urban context. So as part of that, we're offering this webinar as well as offering it to anyone who is interested as well. Tonight, we have an amazing panel of speakers who are involved in controlled environment growing, not just in Toronto, but like other parts of the world. And tonight, my role is to just share a little bit about what controlled environment agriculture is and to provide that context. I'll do my best to keep it short. That way, everyone will have more time to enjoy the various perspectives that our speakers have to offer tonight. So starting off is just a really simple definition of controlled environment agriculture, or CEA. And it's the combination of plant sciences or horticulture with an engineering-based approach to grow crops in a managed environment. And the end goal of it is to increase crop yield, to improve crop quality, and to achieve better resource efficiency, whether it's from water, electricity, or space, or gas as well. The idea of growing crops in a protected environment isn't something new. In fact, the earliest record of growing crops in a protected environment was in ancient Rome, when they grew cucumbers in a specialized structure. And then in the mid-1400s in Korea, they actually found records of active heated greenhouses, and they used an underfloor heating system and oiled paper to let sunlight in. When the European travelers around the late 1600s started bringing back tropical plants, that started the spread of glasshouses and conservatories among the wealthy in both Europe and America. And due to technological innovations in the 1900s, we now have what we know as greenhouses and CEA today. So that's due to, of course, innovations in plastic production, climate control systems, artificial lighting, soilless culture, and automation. So CEA can incorporate various systems, but depending on the technology that it incorporates. So it can range from things like hoop houses all the way to growth chambers that offer a really high level of control. So it doesn't really matter if it's passive or active, as long as you are managing an environment, then it could be part of CEA. So we see now a interest in CEA, and there's a number of reasons why it is being explored today, such as being able to provide fruits and vegetables year-round, producing food in extreme environments, whether it's extreme cold, extreme heat, or drought. It can produce food in a smaller area footprint, reduce reliance on imports, explore sustainable technologies as we discover them, and to address climate change-related challenges when it comes to growing and providing food for the population. And I hope that gives everyone some context on CEA, what it is and where it came from, and what it can encompass. So I'm now going to pass it on to our moderator for tonight, who is my fellow research assistant at Seneca, Kinley.
Thank you. Thank you, Sai. Hi, everyone. My name is Kinley, and I am the session moderator for tonight's discussion session. And I would like to introduce the 6 guest speakers that we have for tonight from 5 different controlled environment agriculture organizations. Firstly, we have Dr. Lesley Campbell. She is a professor at TMU, and she has been pioneer in the field of conservation biology, agriculture, and equity in science since joining the university in 2010. She has also conducted extensive research that focuses on innovative approaches to sustainable agriculture, biodiversity conservation, and promoting equitable access to natural resources. And the next speaker we have is Fred Winegust. He is a project specialist at GReena Community Farm and Employment Zone. And along with him, we also have Aki Shimizu, who is a farm coordinator at GReena. And then we have Lucía. She is the co-founder and COO of Raiz Vertical Farm in Portugal. And she is also our current student of TUF program. And next we have Dr. Andrew Paton. He is a research manager for Applied Research and Innovation Department at Seneca Polytechnic. And he'll be talking about the vertical containers farm at Seneca Polytechnics. And finally, we have Angela ElzingaCheng. She is a program manager of families, newcomers, and climate action at West Neighbourhood House or Greenest City. Thank you all for joining us today. So in order to ensure an engaging and informative session, I would like to kindly brief on some important ground rules. This session is divided into 3 main questions. The first question and the last questions are designed to explore broader aspect of controlled environment agriculture. Therefore, each speaker will have 5 minutes to speak on each question. And since question 2 is focused on challenges related to controlled environment agriculture, each speaker has strictly 2 minutes to talk on each challenges. And also presenters are most welcome to leave your contact information in the chat so that audience member can contact you if they have any questions. So without further ado, let's delve into the discussion. The first question, maybe we can begin with Lesley. How or why did you choose controlled environment agriculture as your approach to farming? You can give us a brief description of your farm, including business status, scale of operation, what you're growing, or how you sell those produces. Over to
Hi,
you, Lesley.
everyone. Thank you, Kinley. I started in farming in 1975 when I was born because I grew up on a farm, and it wasn't until the 1990s that my dad switched in from corn and soybeans into broccoli and cabbage growing. So we ended up doing some form of controlled environment agriculture from when I was very young. And we had a lot of experience with it, where we were growing little seedlings in the hoop house and then a greenhouse, and then grew all of our crops outdoors. So I had a long experience with this form of agriculture. But in 2017, I was recruited into a little grant collaboration with an engineer who was supposed to be designing an agricultural system to produce cannabis. The cannabis system was beautifully designed by the time the two of us worked on it. So just like Sai suggested, CEA is all about botany and engineering working together. And we had a system designed and invented. Since then, we've learned all the problems with it. And so we're inventing a new one right now. And so our, in quotes, business is research to develop CEA methods for a variety of industries. Currently, we've moved out of cannabis. Of course, the industry has collapsed, in essence, for research anyway. And so we're working on a project with the Weston Foundation to learn how to grow raspberries at scale at starting scale to then learn how to get it to a big scale right now. And so right now what we've done is we're redesigning a farm. We're literally building the beta version now, and we'll be showcasing it and producing it in the next 3 months so that we can start to recruit partners who would like to install it in their facilities. I'll post my contact information because we're always looking to support folks who are doing that kind of work. So if you want to reach out, feel free to talk to me about that. So raspberries, not commercial, because that's not my job. Just so you know.
Thank you. Thank you, Lesley. What about the producers? How do you manage those producers?
Oh, so we're working with raspberries, but our broader focus is fruits of any sort. And so one of the things that we're really interested in is learning what kind of markets are available for small scale producers. And so another component of our project is to actually model the market of diversity of CEA crops so that we can help producers choose when to produce fruit at the right time of year when you will actually make a lot of money for this. I can see Lucía nodding her head. So we're thinking about a diversity of them. Currently, we're growing raspberries, blackberries, currants, and monstera, because why not? So that's what we're doing.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lesley. That was very insightful. Next, we would like to hear from Aki about GReena.
Aki, if you can put up the slides.
Yeah. Give me 1 sec.
And it's Kinley, it's going to be a combination of Aki and myself.
Does everyone see it?
Yeah, just scroll back and just get rid of some of the,
Oops.
yeah, we've got a blackout there on part of the screen.
I'm not sure how to move this black out.
Okay, right now you're showing, I think, a different presentation. You had the right one up there a second ago, and now you're.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay,
I apologize.
while we're waiting for Aki to put that up, I can at least start giving the verbal information. First of all, by way of introduction, GReena is an organization, a not-for-profit that promotes dignity, individuality, independence, personal growth, and community inclusion for people with diverse abilities within a framework of Jewish culture and values. We provide affordable housing, programs for community participation, and various types of outreach programs for individuals with developmental disabilities. This, Aki, by the time you catch up, it'll be slide 3. The GReena Community Farm is part of an initiative that we have called GReena. Perfect, that's the slide we need. And then it got covered a little bit. The GReena Community Farm is the sustainable food arm of GReena that really got started because of COVID. We were buying prepared meals at the time. And after seeing what the expense was of doing that, it made sense at the time. We had to come up with a way of producing some of our own food and hopefully at our own locations. The other two elements are renewable energy and the reduce, recycle, reuse. We believe that the community farm itself addresses 6 of the 17 initiatives that the United Nations has laid out for sustainable development. Next slide, please, Aki. We have, over the 3 years of our operation, we have come up with 6 different models, and we're going to go through them on the next slide, which is to give you more of a time frame. The ones with light green are where we pay people to do the work, because, no, go back where you were, Aki. Just a second, go back one slide. The light green, the hydroponics and the mega farm is where we pay people to grow what we have decided needed to be grown, and then that produce is sold. The residential, apartment, balcony, and neighborhood models are more of a volunteer approach, but they all fall under the Rena Community Farm umbrella because we're using the same technology, the same methods, etc. Now, we started in a non-controlled environment, which is outdoor. And then last year in April, we moved into the controlled environment with our hydroponics. Next slide, Aki, please. So 2021, we received a grant from the federal government, and we had 2 outdoor locations, each running 200 containers, what you see up in the top right-hand corner. These were sub-irrigated containers, so we weren't planting in the ground, we were planting on the ground. It took a while for us to get going with hydroponics between getting the contract signed and going through all of the different steps we needed to for City of Vaughan approvals. It took us all the way to December of 2022 to get that out of the way. Our equipment arrived on the 16th. We were commissioned on the 20th of April, and our first crop came out on the 6th. Now, the outside non-controlled environment is what has also been growing over time. In 2022, we consolidated the 2 locations into a single. We started our residential program once the COVID restrictions were lifted. And in total, we had 850 containers, either at Rena or with our neighborhood partners. And that has expanded to over 1,100 now. We had to shrink our mega farm to 266 because of flooding. And as you can see, the rest of the numbers there. So we've got quite a few boxes to manage. Next slide, please. So if you look at our spread, we were very focused on 4 particular crops, having learned to cut down on the number of crops so we could learn from them. So you can see what our split was at the mega farm, where we had 266 containers, and in our residential apartment and balcony. If you want to see our revenues, being very realistic, we had 400 containers, but only generated $487 worth of revenue because we didn't have a channel really set up. In 22, we added a second client, and using the same 400 containers, we pretty well quadrupled our revenue. The following year, we lost almost half of our containers, yet we still generated more. And that's because we learned what the market was actually looking for, what they would buy, and what the prices were. We also did a calculation to see what the value of what we grew at the group homes, apartments, and on the balconies. So together, it was almost $8,000 value of what we grew. And when we had leftover food, we would barter with the York Region Food Network. So we would send them our lettuce, peppers, tomatoes, and they would send us their corn, celery, and butternut squash, and we would redistribute that within the Rena network. Next slide, Aki. Take it away.
I could, yeah. So yeah, this is the CEA that we have now. It was provided by the Grocer, a company named Grocer. They focus on extreme environment hydroponic containers. So they have a bunch up north or in infertile land where they can't really grow vegetables there. And so we're one of the first few clients that grow or in urban agriculture in Thornhill. So this container is located right beside our main office in Thornhill, Ontario. It's 40 feet long, 10 feet wide, 10 feet high. So it's extremely small, just enough to grow about 1,700 heads of lettuce or spinach or whatever you're growing at a time per batch. And we have a couple individuals that we employ here to give them a skill, to give them experience in agriculture. So if they ever want to work elsewhere, they have the skill set to work. One of the other reasons why we wanted to have a CEA hydroponic container is because we couldn't grow leafy greens kosher outside. It's extremely difficult with with growing when we can't have any bugs in our produce. One bug will make it not kosher. So we just couldn't grow it outside, but in a controlled environment and an optimal condition, we're able to do that. I'll talk a little more about pests and diseases and about kosher growing and the other questions.
Okay, so that wraps up our question 1 answer. We have a few more slides for question 3. So Aki, if you could take the slides down and we turn it back to our host.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred and Aki. That was very comprehensive and very insightful. Next, we would like to hear from Lucía about Raiz Vertical Farm. Hi, Lucía, are you there? I think she is having some connection issue. Maybe we can hear from the next speaker, and then when she can join, we can hear from her. The next speaker is Andrew. We want to hear about the vertical container farm at Seneca Polytechnics.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Well, a lot of you probably have heard my voice a lot for the last few weeks, but I'll keep that relatively. I'll keep this relatively short because we are still ramping up our controlled environment agriculture work at Seneca. I'll share my screen. I have a couple of slides just to help more guide me than anybody else through what I'm going to say. I hope this is coming through okay.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. Oh, that's probably not working. I'll just leave that. It's okay. So at Seneca, our urban farming, our controlled environment agriculture is a container that we have. It's actually, it will look on the surface very similar to what Thea is going to share for Reyes farms. But inside it's a lot different. So this is a unique, relatively unique setup that was actually built by a startup that came through Seneca called Ripple Farms. And they have since gone out of business, unfortunately, for a number of reasons that I can't actually get into because it's not my business. So, but while they were around, they were doing really well, and they built this 2-story unit. So the bottom floor is a setup for hydroponics, and the top is a greenhouse that is also set up for hydroponics. And what we've recently renovated it so that it is slightly different technology. So this is actually, now we're using just vertical technology. So they're a company that started out by making residential focused hydroponic, very easy to use hydroponic grow units that look really nice. Their thing was the design of the hydroponics so that it fit in as furniture. But they're branching out into walls, what they call food walls or farm walls. So I'll show a rendering of the downstairs and the upstairs, and then some photos as well. So this is the downstairs container. This is actually a really good rendering. It shows a lot exactly what's in there. So their technology that we use, the technology we use is it's a vertical drip irrigation. Each of these growing columns has 10 grow sites on it, and I think overall there's 53 columns in the downstairs, fed by 4 different reservoirs. So we can have 4 different batches going at a time. This is meant so that we can have a 4-week split between what we're growing, so we can have things to harvest every week over a 4-week cycle. What we grow currently is basically leafy greens. We grow basil, 2 kinds of lettuces, a green lettuce and a red leaf lettuce. And I forget what the 4th thing is. Kinley, what's the 4th thing that we grow?
Dill.
Dill, thank you, and dill. And so there's a seedling rack, the main reservoir, 4 other reservoirs, and this is the temperature, the heat control system. There is a heat pump, and that's it. That's what's in the main floor. On the 2nd floor, so you can see in the text it says we produce about 15 pounds of leafy greens a week. In here, we've just started since September, so I don't know if we've really solidified that number yet. This is the upstairs is meant for research. So we have one setup here that is actually set up for deep water irrigation, agriculture there. We have a flexible rack that's just got trays that we can grow on. We have a smaller setup of the just vertical units, the columns that are similar to the basement, and a seedling rack. We've since actually removed one of these deep water agriculture racks to put in a unit that we're working with a faculty member at the University of Guelph to just to test. So it's gonna hopefully get up and running in the next week or 2, and then we'll start that study. But this area is meant for research projects, so we can test new things out exactly like what we're doing. Here's some pictures. There's Sakina, one of our other research assistants, harvesting something. Some basil in the plugs that are going to be transplanted. They look like they're going to be transplanted pretty soon into the walls. And here's sort of what the walls look like. So the light racks are on one side, the reservoirs are at the bottom, the black pieces, and then these are the vertical columns that with a whole bunch of lettuce. Really nice looking lettuce, actually, in these pictures. And then this is just a container of harvested lettuce that was probably given to our Seneca Student Federation Food Bank. The idea is we're going to be distributing to the food services, but we haven't got there yet. I can talk about that a little bit later. The other thing that we're doing is this is part of our Center of Innovation in Microfarming, which we're supporting research across all of these areas. So advanced farming technologies, which is most relevant here, but also we're doing research into community-based farming. So how can we support businesses or organizations to benefit local urban farmers, public policy research, financial or business model development, these kinds of activities, and then circular agriculture, which I kind of stretch out to be just circular economy work in general, of how can we look to reduce pollution, localize production, reduce shipping times, these kinds of things. And so my role currently is to be leading and developing this center as it grows. And I'll stop there, and I'm happy to answer questions later, and I'll be talking later too. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, I forgot to mention that audience, if you have any questions and comments, you can leave it in the chat below, and then we can address them as we go on. Thank you so much, Andrew, again. We would like to hear from Angela about the Milky Way.
Hello, everyone. My name is Angela ElzingaCheng. Just to give a brief amount of context, I didn't grow up on a farm, but I've been working in outdoor landscaping, agriculture on fruit farms, and in controlled agriculture environment for about 6 years in greenhouses, 13 square kilometers of greenhouses in the Niagara region. So there's the first greenhouse in, I believe, Canada to produce its own electricity. And also it was on the cutting edge of it was on the cutting edge of greenhouse growing, and we actually often had visitors from all over the world coming to visit the space. So I had the opportunity, a lost opportunity, because I didn't learn enough while I was there, because I was a high school student doing a full-time jobs during summer and during the year, because I didn't learn enough, but I went back later to learn more about it. But I'm supposed to talk about the Milky Way, not about my controlled environment agriculture experience. So I'm going to tell you briefly about the Milky Way, and also about I have a aspirational dream to have a container farm. And my actually job tonight is to tell you about the fun times I've had in getting permission to actually grow. So I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to share my screen just to show you. Oh, just kidding. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. I want to make sure I'm on the right presentation first. Okay. And let me, as anyone else who's done this, you know that there's things that are always in front of your ability to start things. Okay, so I'm just going to first tell you just about the Milky Way. There's more I'm going to talk to you later. But this is a drawing that actually was done by a York University art student on the Milky Way project. A number of you here, I recognize many of your names, and a number of you have already heard about the Milky Way, but I'm just going to tell you briefly the garden context. It's in a laneway, so like an alleyway on the west end, and it's surrounded on one side by residential, another commercial, and then there's some institutions. It's only about 7,000 square feet, but it is in a very densely populated neighborhood, which has about 90% of people in it that live in high rises. And we have the second least access to green space in all of Toronto. So you can imagine how densely populated this is. It had no access to water or hydro. It's a very quiet sanctuary space when you come into it, despite all of the urban area around it. It's very quiet. You can see the picture of the snow down there at the very bottom, and you can imagine the peacefulness in the summer. It is currently used for growing green space events, workshops, biodiversity, and the stewardship of the land in that area. We have sometimes events on that space of about 150, 200 people. And we grow with about 30 different growers on that space. And the plan, as you could see in this above picture, is to have a hydroponic container farm. It's going to be a rammed earth greenhouse. And we have a pergola already there, a indigenous circular garden, and then we have other pollinator gardens, as well as some food growing gardens as well that already exist. What doesn't exist yet is the container farm and the rammed earth greenhouse. Is this a good time to talk about vegging out, or should I just stop there?
You can continue, Angela.
Okay. So the project that I'm working on is a project called Vegging Out, which is it's an aspirational project. I have a business plan and a feasibility study done. So we've done the math and we have a go, which just means that it's seen as a feasible project. But like many hydroponic farms, the goal is to sell fresh produce as well as some other products. It's going to be locally grown right in downtown Toronto. A hydroponic container. We're going to be delivering it to restaurants and to farmers markets. So the business model is 75% restaurants with unique contracts, and then 25% farmers markets. That includes, with a subsidy, being able to sell low cost to something called a fresh produce market, which is where you sell low cost produce right here in our neighborhood, about 300 feet away from the container farm. So not that far, if I could do my foot math, how far away it is. Our goal, although I'm not feeling very great about it in the winter, but our goal is to do this by bike. And there's lots of great models of selling produce by bike, bringing it to different places, especially since it's only 5 kilometers. It's also going to be a youth employment social enterprise, and the youth are going to be trained in decent wage jobs like climate conscious landscaping, and then also controlled agriculture environment and sustainable food growing practices, pollinators, plants and medicines, because we also have access to 5 different in the ground growing spaces as well, and then partnerships with other businesses. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. I think Lucia is back now. Maybe we can hear from Lucia about Ray's farm.
Yes, sorry. I am so sorry. My computer is giving me a hard time. You can see the sad face. Okay, so I'm dialing in from my phone. I hope that's okay. Hello, everyone. I am Lucía. I am co-founder of Raiz. Raiz is a vertical farming company that is focusing on developing a decentralized network of vertical farms across urban areas. We are using CIA because CIA combines the fact that we can control the environment and have a consistency throughout the year. Give me a second. Just trying to go to a place that is a little bit more quiet, sorry. Okay, here we go. So as I was saying, why did we choose to use controlled environment agriculture? Is because we want to develop this network of vertical farms in urban settings, and urban settings, as you might know, have a lot of space, but it's more vertical than horizontal. So we thought that by developing this decentralized network of vertical farms, we could deploy a big number of small to medium-sized farms in city centers. And yeah, so basically we are combining controlled environment agriculture and vertical farming and hydroponics to be able to deploy this network of farms. Now I'm gonna share my screen and yes, and I'm gonna show you some pictures of the crops we're growing. Okay, hopefully this works. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a full barrel. What you can see here, we have 6 full barrels in the greenhouse upstairs, where we are growing mostly basil, but we are also growing in 1 barrel. So this is how you see the farm on the inside. And we have a lot of basil production because that's what our clients buy the most. And at the end, we have experimental barrel where we grow edible flowers like this one. There is an Amazonian flower. We grow all sorts of veggies, cucumbers, tomatoes, sweet peppers, as you can see. And this is the farm from the outside. So we are not just producing veggies, we are also offering experiences. I think this will come later about the viability and profitability of the farm. We bring people over. In our case, this is a 20-foot container on top of each other. The upper one has been modified to be a greenhouse and use as much natural light as possible. And then the below container is where all the hardware is, and also is where we host the visits, the experiences. Yeah, so now that I have calmed down a little bit more, just finish by saying that controlled environment agriculture makes a lot of sense in urban settings because this way we can grow food closer to the consumer. So cities are right now spaces where more than 50% of the world population are living, yet these are spaces where no food is being produced or almost no food is being produced, which puts cities and its citizens at a big risk of food supply disruptions, extreme weather events that bring cities to a point of challenge when it comes to guaranteeing access to food and especially to fresh food. So we thought that by deploying this network of farms, we could increase resilience and bring food closer to the consumers. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucía. That was very insightful information. Thank you all